5 minutes after 9 o'clock, you know that when we do interviews with authors, that at the end of the interview, I will often say I was sent a book and I'd like to give it away. And then, of course, I get the information so the rest of us can go buy the book. And I don't usually say that until the very end of the interview. Well, you can usually tell when an author has a following when the fans are calling even before I've announced that she's coming on. And that is such the case this morning. I mean, we mentioned it yesterday, and of course we had it on the promo, but this is the first time I'm mentioning it, really. Allison Leotta is on the phone. I'm so glad we invited her to be with us 25 minutes. A lot of times when we have a novelist, we keep it short, like 10 minutes. There's good reason for that, actually. I mean, you want to help promote the book, but you don't want to talk too much about the storyline because, obviously, the fun of reading a well-written novel is reading it, not hearing about it beforehand. But Allison is with us a little bit longer because of some of her life work. Wait till you hear what she has done. She is, including being a great author. Let me put the author first, even though it says it last here. She's the author of a book called A Good Killing, which is a thriller novel. But listen to her background. She's a federal sex crimes prosecutor. Prosecutor!
Yes. Good for her.
I think a woman should always be a prosecutor in sex crimes. I mean, because usually, I'm probably speaking out of line, but it just seems like most of the crimes are committed against women.
Yeah.
So a woman should be the prosecutor.
And children.
Right. In Washington, D.C., of all places, gosh, she must have seen her share. She did that for 12 years or so. It says serving as an assistant U.S. attorney where she handled sex crimes, domestic violence, and crimes against children. There you go. She provided legal commentary to CNN, PBS, Reuters TV, MSNBC. She's the founder of the award-winning blog called The Primetime Crime Review. She happens to be really pretty, too.
Yes, she is.
Makes a difference to me. I know it's superficial. Allison Leotta, good morning. Nice to have you on the air. What an honor. Good morning.
Good morning, Larry. Thank you so much for having me.
Where are you right now?
I'm in Washington, D.C., in my living room.
When you see all the bad stuff that you see, why do you even stay living there? I mean, wouldn't you say, gosh, this is the hellhole of the world?
Well, sometimes I would have that reaction to seeing what people could do to each other, and to someone who usually was someone they trusted or loved them. But I have to say, being a prosecutor was the most rewarding legal job I think any lawyer could have. There is nothing like waking up every day and knowing you're going to put a predator in jail, and knowing that your job is to keep your community safe and make sure he can never do that to someone else again.
Do you know,
I loved it.
There was a story. Can I just interject a story from today's news, and then I promise we'll be fair to the book and to everything else. But since you offer commentary, I'd love your commentary on this. It just drove us both nuts, Robin and I, when we heard that story that the defense team for this kid up in Boston has asked the jury not to consider the death of the 8-year-old boy.
Yes.
I don't even know. How can a jury even ignore that? I mean, how can you ignore such a big piece of evidence? But anyway, it just drove us nuts.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they will ignore that. Even, it's one thing to get an instruction, and it's another thing to know something in your heart.
Yeah, I guess that's ultimately the jury knows it. But can you imagine if they were told they couldn't even hear about that? I mean, it would be crazy. But they have heard about it, I would assume, right?
Yeah, I think it's inevitable. So, yes, they've heard about it. So
let's see, where do we start? Let me start with the book, and then we'll go back and forth. Tell me, this is not your first book, right? You've been, you obviously have a following. You have people wanting at the end of this, I'm going to give the book away that you sent us. And I've already got people.
Wonderful. I'm glad to hear that people were chomping at the bit to get it. That's wonderful.
So tell me about your background is as an author. Is this something you did even while you were working as a prosecutor?
I did. I kept coming home from the courthouse and seeing these incredible things that were happening and saying someone ought to write a novel about this. And I kept saying it over and over, and finally decided to put my money where my mouth was and sat down, and for a couple hours every morning before going to work, I would write. So I did that for 2 years and had my first book. And at that point, I thought I was going to do it all. I was going to be a writer. I was going to be a prosecutor all at the same time. And then Simon & Schuster asked me to keep writing and have a book a year come out, and I realized I had to choose one or the other.
Wow. Was it a burden? Not a burden, but was it the release of a burden to no longer have to be a prosecutor, or do you truly miss it?
Oh, no, I miss it. I loved being a sex crimes prosecutor. And I come from a tradition of prosecutors. My dad was a federal prosecutor in Detroit. My husband was a federal prosecutor in Baltimore. We wave the flag here in the family. But it's really a dream come true to be able to be a writer. I love a great book. I love a great page turner, and it's really just this incredible opportunity to be part of this world.
So obviously you draw from that whole experience, and now that we know something about your husband and your father, I'm guessing you draw from their stories as well. But is there any part of you that says, you know what, us prosecutors don't always get a fair deal? Sometimes the bad guy wins, and I'm going to make sure that that's spelled out in my books. Does that ever happen?
For sure, yeah. I mean, that's incredibly frustrating when that happens. But for the most part, you're going in and you're trying your best to make sure that doesn't happen, and just using everything you can do within the law and using your creativity to make it happen. That's very rewarding. But I do think that in the book there is a satisfying sense of you are in control. You know, as the author, you are the creator of the world, and you can make the chips fall where they're going to fall. As opposed in real life, which is much more chaotic and uncertain.
So forgive the question that I'm about to ask, because this is the question every dorky radio guy is going to ask you. But it seems like a good one for you in your case, especially. Anna Curtis, is it you? Yeah. Are you close to her? I mean, it's hard to know. It's hard to know what we know about you and read Anna Curtis's story and then not wonder if it's not you.
And I think that's a fair question, because I put so much of myself in her. She has my kind of at least academic background. She's a girl from Michigan. She went to law school. She became a sex crimes prosecutor in D.C. All of that is me. All that happened to me. But I came from a very lovely suburban background, nice family, prosecutor dad. I'm now a mom. My life at home is about Cheerios and Matchbox cars. It's not very exciting. You would never write a novel about me. She is very interesting. She's young, she's single, she has a very interesting romantic life. She dates and goes out, and she can kind of do very cutting edge things, sometimes go over lines that I would never go over as a prosecutor, because it's her fictional bar license on the line.
Oh, that's cool. That's like your alter ego, then your superhero version of yourself. See, if I ever made a character based on me, he would be so promiscuous. I mean, he would just be all over the place. I don't think I'd be the prim and proper. My character wouldn't be, my character would be my thoughts, not my actions. I might be my guy might be a sex crime. I don't know.
And
that's not even funny, is it? I'm sorry.
And that's one thing that your book does bring out, the realities of life. I mean, you have based your book on Jerry Sandusky and all those horrible, horrible things that he did to the quote-unquote children. And it's just really wonderful that you're able to bring that to light within your book, that even the closest people we sometimes can't trust.
Yeah, so the Jerry Sandusky case was a really high-profile version of an interaction that I saw so often in my work, and that is usually a trusted person in a victim's life. Like, I think as women, as moms, we worry about the rapist lurking in the bushes. We worry about the stranger driving by and grabbing our kids off the sidewalk. But what I saw was that those were outliers. They happen sometimes, but they were really, really rare. The man who filled my docket, the men who made up my caseload, they were doctors, ice cream men, fathers, stepfathers, ex-boyfriends. They were coaches, teachers. They were a trusted person in the victim's life. And to me, that was scarier, because the stranger in the car, to run away from. But the trust that the predators use, like coaches, you don't know to run away. And it's not someone who's going to break in through your window. It's someone you let in through your front door.
Wow.
Your defenses are down.
So I asked you in the beginning, why didn't you just get out of Washington? Now I'm wondering why you even have a husband. I mean, why did you even like men at all? See, that's the part I don't like about sex violators, because it's embarrassing as a guy. You say, gosh, why do guys have to do that? It makes all of us guys look bad. Mm-hmm. I guess anytime anybody from a group does something that you're a part of that group, you're embarrassed, right?
Right.
It's something I try to teach my kids, which is most people are in the world are nice people, they're good people, but you just have to have your guard up a little bit because you never know. And there is a small subset. And that was a challenge as a sex crimes prosecutor because it came across my desk so often that it starts to shade your whole world. Is everybody like this? And you have to consciously remind yourself.
Yeah.
This is just a subset. This is a small subset. Most people are good.
Allison, good interviews are gauged by how quickly they go. So we're already at the halfway point. We've got to take a break. And we haven't really been fair to the story yet. The story is in a book called A Good Killing. So, Allison, when we come back, we'll make sure that the listeners know what's in the book, okay?
Great.
So we'll take a little break and be right back.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. Clouds and some sunshine today with a thunderstorm around, mainly during the afternoon hours. The high 87 at the coast, 92 inland. Partly cloudy tonight, low 68 to 72. Tomorrow will be partly sunny, but watch out for a shower or thunderstorm in the afternoon and evening. The high 84 at the coast, 90 inland. On Friday, times of sun and clouds with a shower and thunderstorm around, mainly during the afternoon hours. The high 82 at the coast, 88 inland. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm Joe Lundberg.
Hi, I'm Seth with AA Lock, Dock, and Security. Have you ever thought about the locks or security on your house or business? Have you ever wondered why the keys to your new car cost so much? Well, at AA Lock, Dock, and Security, we can help with securing your valuables. We can even replace those expensive transponder keys. We can give you the knowledge that no one else will. Call AA Lock, Dock, and Security at 867-1965. That's 867-1965.
Your weekends are getting a little retooled.
Swear to God, not making a joke.
Check this out. New shows? Check. Some new talent? Check. Let's welcome the guys.
Let's get it going.
Arnie Spanier.
Unbelievable.
TJ Reeves.
This is what you get.
Your weekends are on fire. Because that's how exotic it is.
All right, 18 minutes after 9 o'clock. Beautiful looking Wednesday, huh? Nice looking day out there.
Gorgeous.
And how's the weather in Washington, D.C., Allison?
Pretty nice. I'm guessing not as beautiful as in Florida.
Yeah, it's nice right today. It's beautiful there too. So let me tell you a personal story. My sister was raped by our cousin when she was I don't know, maybe 7 or 8. 11 was she? I can't remember.
Yeah.
She has since passed away. My sister had a bad life. My sister was younger than me, like 7 years younger, and she died in 2008. Is that when it was?
Maybe she was 7.
But my point is that when you're talking about people who you trust, this was a guy we trusted because he was our cousin, and of course he would have been my parents' nephew, you know. So and what happened? It was my grandfather's funeral, and it was down here in Florida. They came down from Connecticut for the funeral, and the cousin said to my sister, "Let's take a walk," and that's when it happened. But we didn't find out about it until years later.
Yeah.
And he never met his legal obligations because of that at all, except for the fact that he raped one of his own nieces up in Connecticut.
Yes.
And that's where they got him because of that.
Wow. Well, I'm so sorry, Larry, to hear what happened to your family. But I'm not surprised to hear that he struck again, because that's so often these guys are recidivists. They don't. It's not a one-off thing. It's not like, oops, this thing happened, we were drunk, or that sort of thing. The men who do it tend to do it over and over and over again.
And you know what I think? Tell me if you think I'm wrong about this. Gosh, I know people are going to hate when I say this, but I think when a man commits a sex crime against a woman, it's way more heinous than when a woman does it to a man. I know there are the opposites. There's a story this morning about a teacher with an 18-year-old boy.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. It just doesn't seem like it's the same life-changing event. It just doesn't. Am I wrong about that?
Well, you know, it's funny because on my blog, I blog about TV crime dramas, and whenever I talk about men do this, men do that, because the vast majority of sex crimes are committed by men. That the ones by women are very unusual. They get a lot of press, but they're very unusual. The men always hop in and say, "But what about women who are doing it to men?" And that always is the number one thing that people want to debate on the blog is sex crimes committed by women.
Well, I wasn't trying to do that with you. I hopefully you understood that I feel it's way more heinous, even if it was just one-on-one, even if there was 50-50, which it's not even close. But I would still say, I don't know, it's just my feeling as a man. And I mean, I'm not talking about a 6-year-old boy. I'm talking about an 18-year-old man here.
Right,
So-
right, yes. Well, I don't know. From my perspective, what filled my filing cabinets were men.
Yeah.
And there was the occasional female, predator, but it was unusual to the point where, as a mom, I would be reluctant to have a male babysitter. I would,
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm 100% with you. I wouldn't either. I wouldn't want that. All right, so let's talk about the story, because that's what we have to do. That's our job. The book is called A Good Killing. There's a character named Jodi. Jodi is the sister of Anna, right?
Right.
All right, take it from there. What happens?
So Jodi is accused of killing the football coach in her hometown, in Anna's hometown. Anna, the prosecutor, goes home and she defends Jodi against this murder charge. And of course, this is a small town in Michigan. It's a big football town. That's like their last shining thing. And so the town loves this coach. They rally against Jodi. But Anna's by her side, trying to defend her. But meanwhile, Jodi's not telling her the truth. No one in town is telling her the truth. And Anna finds these kind of long buried secrets in the town as she's trying to figure out what really happened between Jodi and the coach.
And that's where we don't hear anymore. We don't hear anymore. You know, it was funny when I was reading the book, I was thinking of the guy, Jerry Van Dyke. Every time I coach, I kept thinking of his face for some reason. Do you know who he is?
I don't know, but I love when people have their own vision of what the people in the book look like. That's a lot of fun.
Isn't that crazy? Why was I thinking of him?
The town itself becomes a character, though, also.
Absolutely, and I think that's such an interesting thing to see the different reactions in the places where these crimes are prosecuted. And in so many cases recently, we've seen towns rally to their football players because we just love our sports in America. And I wonder if they get a pass, if there's kind of a different system for them in some of these small towns because they are held up on this pedestal.
You have
That's an interesting statement, yeah. I think they do. I think they do get a pass, yeah.
You have a lot of intrigue going on. You also explore vigilante aspect.
Yes, well, that's where a good killing comes from, and it really raises the question of, is there such a thing as a good killing, and when would that be? I think a lot of times the reaction to sex crime, if it happens to you, if it happens to your family member, is, I want to kill that guy. I want to kill him.
Oh, wow. Well,
and it's a mark of, civilization that we don't. We generally let the justice system take care of it. We go through these trials and these rituals to make sure that the right guy is going to jail and that justice is exacted. But sometimes if the system fails, that vigilante instinct may or may not be able to be reined in.
Allison Leotta is our guest. Her book is called A Good Killing. It's a thriller novel. Her background as a federal sex crimes prosecutor in Washington, D.C. really contributes to her understanding of the criminal mind, I would think. Let me tell you about the sweetest woman you would have ever met. She was my mom. She's no longer alive. Yes. But when my mother, and my mother wouldn't kill a flea. My mother wouldn't hurt anything. But when I went over to her house, the day, I guess shortly after she learned that the cousin who raped my sister, he died, okay? He had some kind of diabetes thing or something. When I went there the day that, what she said to me when I walked through the door was, he's dead. She was so happy. And I said, who's dead? I thought, because the day before I found out that there was a snake in her house, and that's what I was going over there for, to try to figure out where this snake might be hiding. Yeah. Okay. So she's excited that he's dead, and I'm thinking, oh, the snake is dead. Yeah. Right? So I said, wow. Who's dead? And then she said my cousin's name. I said, oh, how'd he die? But I never saw my mother so happy that somebody was dead ever in her whole life. And so there you go. That's kind of expressing the same thing you're talking about.
Right. Well, but she didn't go out and actually try to exact any justice on him. I mean, she had that.
Yeah, but she could pray. She knew how to pray. She was probably praying for his demise. Would you please take him? Please get him off the planet, dear God. Get him off the planet.
You have a lot of human interest in your characters of the story. You also delve into veterans, and that's a very touching character you have in there.
Thank you. I love that character. His name's Cooper, and he is Anna's love interest in this book. And he was really inspired by a lot of the young men and women that I see here in D.C. We've got Walter Reed Medical Center and a lot of other military hospitals where these wounded warriors come back from Afghanistan, Iraq, and they come back often without limbs, a leg or two legs missing, an arm. And I see them on the jogging path by my house, and I'm always just overwhelmed by the sacrifice they made, their courage in going out there for us. And there was this young man named Jonathan who lived in my neighborhood. He had come back from Afghanistan with two legs missing. He lost them in an IED blast in Afghanistan. And I wanted to know about him. And he and his girlfriend were very generous in sitting down with me, talking about what it was like for him to be there. My kids were asking him about his robot legs. And he was just so cool about it. He said he preferred when people ask rather than just stare. And he told them all about his robot legs. And by the end, my kids wanted to have some robot legs of their own.
Oh, wow.
And I was just really inspired by his courage. He came back, he made himself a photographer. He took my author photo. If you look at the photo on the book, that was taken by Jonathan. And I was just really inspired by Jonathan and Gemma's relationship and by everything that they've overcome. So I tried to take that spirit and put it in Cooper. And I have to say, people who have read the book say, a lot of the young women are saying, oh, I have such a crush on Cooper now.
Exactly.
Which is always a great compliment.
So were you creating Cooper based on anybody?
Well, I used a little bit of Jonathan's spirit in Cooper, and I used a little bit of the romance between Jonathan and Gemma to kind of infuse what would happen between Cooper and, Jonathan and Gemma, to infuse the romance in my book. But no, there's no one character in the book that's based on one person. I think that as a novelist, you just take the best and most interesting things of what you see around you and the characters you see around you, and you put them together into something new and different in your book.
And do you have a sister?
I have two little sisters. They both are joking with me, will you defend me if I get charged with murder? I have promised that, so I hope they never get charged because I will have to fly out and help them.
Yeah,
I worked for a short while, 7 years I worked. That's not a short time, but for 7 years I worked with the Juveniles system here in Florida. And,
wow.
And by the end of 7 years, I felt like I really hadn't done anything, and I won't get into that, but I really felt like it's kind of hard to change losers. And I hate to say that because it's kind of contrary to what you're trying to do when you're in that job, which is to make people realize that they're not losers. But it's so, I don't know, it's so hard. Did you find that at all? And it does show up in the book, the notion that you work with people who may never change.
Yes. Well, I think with the predators, with sex crimes offenders, I'm not sure they ever will change, and I'm not sure that was my job. My job was to put them in jail, and I didn't look to changing them. What I looked to do was to give the victims a sense of justice, a sense that someone cared, a sense of that I was outraged on their behalf, and that I would that I would take care of it, and they could sit back and let themselves heal now that the system was going to take over.
See, that is the best way to approach it, I think, from a prosecutor's point of view, because if the philosophy, and it is for juveniles, at least in Florida, the philosophy is to rehabilitate and not to punish. But at the same time, if you can't fix them,
exactly.
Well, I think that's common. In juveniles, we have a sense that they're kids and maybe we can change them, and I can see how that's hard. But adults, there's a sense that you are a fully formed human being now, and you can make your own choices. And if you choose to rape someone, that's it. Game over.
Allison, this has been such a great interview and a great conversation. Thank you for being on with us today. Do you have a website?
Thank you, Larry. It's AllisonLeotta.com.
And Robin already has it on the Facebook page. She already has it on the guest list for today. And I have the copy, I promise. So call me right now if you want it, 622-9622. I'll put your name on it. It'll be waiting for you right here at the station. The rest of us have to go buy it. I'm guessing it's on all the other sites like Barnes & Noble and Amazon, etc.
Mm-hmm. It's everywhere.
Is it right? Okay. Thank you, Allison. Thank you for being on the air with us today, and come back with if you're ever in the area with the book tour, come into the studio. That would be awesome.
Yes.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you, Robin, so much. It's been great talking to you.
Good.
You're welcome.
Thank you. We'll be right back.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. There are now 6 people killed in last night's train derailment outside of Philadelphia, which sent some